students, and welcome to today's lesson on HCD 211. The topic for today is course guide, measurements, assessment and evaluation in integrated science. Welcome to the topic, and let's get started. In today's lesson, you are going to be exposed to the concepts of assessment, measurement and evaluation. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to state the content of course guide, explain the concept of test and measurement, explain the meaning of assessment, describe evaluation, and identify different purposes of evaluation. When you are given a course material as a student, you will discover that it is very challenging and intimidating. To make this material very interesting and loving, you need to be guided through the course guide. The component of the course material includes the course guide. In the course guide, you have the introduction, objectives, study units, references, assignments, and presentation. Let's take those ones one after the other. In the course guide is just a part of the course material created to introduce the learners to the course. That is, to introduce you to the course, because it's a form of syllabus. Then after the course guide, you see the introduction. Introduction will welcome you to the course by showing you the reason why the course should be taken and the interesting part of the course. Then you have the objectives. The objectives will give you the course goals, that is the objectives of the course, and there will be list of learning outcomes in the course objectives. Then you have what we have study units. In the study units of this particular course, you have 3 modules which contains 14 study units. Then you have the list of references, where after reading your course material, you can go back and look for these materials to complement what you have read from the course material. Then you have a portion that is given as assignment. In the assignment, you have 14 assignments which you are supposed to go through, which means 1 assignment per unit. Then we have presentation schedule. The dates to complete and submit your assignment to be given there. The dates to write your TMAs are there. Then the dates to attend tutorials and facilitation like this is also there. Then you have the dates for your final examination. You should be careful on how you study this part so that you don't miss out any part of the dates that will make you to repeat the course. Then we have assessment. There are 2 major assessments for this course. We have the tutor mark assignment and the final examination. This is an activity for you. Why do you think students should be provided with a clear course guide? When you answer this, you can send it to the email of the facilitator. Now, after knowing what you are supposed to pass through in the course material, by going through your course guide, we can now go through and start discussing what is the topic for Module 1, Unit 1, which is, let's start by knowing what learning is, because we are in educational business. So what is learning? Learning is defined as the permanent change in behavior after experience or after instruction. And when you give an instruction to a student and there is change in behavior, it means that student has learned. And after learning, you give a test. When you give a test, the student will respond. After response, you have to score. And that is where we are going to about the measurements assessment, and evaluation. Now, extent of learning objectives. When you give a student test, there is going to be responses, and the responses means you are going to score them. You are scoring the achievement of the student. This achievement can be expressed in different ways. That is, they can be expressed in numbers by giving a 50%, 20%, or it can be given in words by saying excellent, good, or the combination of the two. So now let's start by discussing what measurement is. We said without a test, we cannot measure. The student must be tested before you can measure. The measurement is a process of numerical scores to performance or observation. When you observe a student, you make sure that you make a score. You give scores for the student. If a student performs well in a test, then you give scores. And in that case, you are doing measurement. You are measuring the ability and achievement of that student. The measurement can be objective or subjective. There are so many things we said we can measure. We can measure the height of students in meters. You can measure the achievement of a test. You can measure even emotional stability of the students. And that is why we said the cooperativeness or quietness of pupils, using qualitative terms but not numbers. Those ones too can be measured. So that is what brings about the measurement in integrated science. Then we have what we call assessment. Assessment is a way of finding out the extent to which a learning objective is achieved. After you have given an instruction, how do you know that the student have achieved something academically? If you have to do that after measurement or after giving a test, you measure. Now you gather, you find out from the measurement. When you are finding out from the measurement, it means you are doing assessment. And it is also gathering or organizing information or data. Your data now is what you have discussed, you have gathered from your measurement. And it is from learning experience. It is also used, it is the use of strategies in finding out how proficient a student is after instruction. What are the importance of this assessment? Assessment serves as a means of feedback to the student. When you give a test, you measure, you assess your measurement. After assessment, you give the student the feedback that he has passed exam or he has failed. You can give the feedback to the parents, the teachers, and even the stakeholders. It can be used for placement, that is, a student from JS1 can be placed in JS2 through assessment. And it can be used for promotion. It can also be used for employment. The purposes of assessment is also important for us in this course. As teachers, we have different purposes of assessment. We have diagnostic assessment, we have formative assessment, we have interim assessment, summative assessment, and placement assessment. In diagnostic assessment, you diagnose. It's like going to the hospital to meet a doctor that you are sick. When you go there, the doctor will diagnose to find out what is wrong with you. The same thing in academic settings. You find out whether the student, what is coming into that class or that lesson is going to be useful to him, or you have to start from the scratch. If you know the weaknesses from diagnostic assessment, you know the weaknesses and the strength of the students so that you can be able to help them. Then the formative assessment is assessment you conduct during the lesson. When you are doing the lesson, from time to time, you'll be asking the student questions to know whether they understand what you are teaching them or not. Then the interim assessment is between formative and summative. And let me give you what summative assessment is so that you know what is in between. Summative assessment is given at the end of the lesson, or at the end of the program, or at the end of a topic. So whichever way you want to do it, it has to be given at the end of that particular program. And between the two now is when you have interim assessment. Then the placement assessment is the most important and useful part of it. After the students have already been the scores have been summed up, the assessment have been summed up in a summative assessment, then you can use it to place the student either into another class or for employment. We have different types of assessment too. We have selected responses, constructed responses, and performance responses. In selected responses, you will discover that you think about objective test, where the student will be given options to choose from. The students are given responses to choose the correct one from. It's only one that will be correct. It can be matching, it can be filling the gap. Those are selected responses. Constructed responses can also be matching of responses. Then you have the performance responses. This one is on essay writing or reports from experiments and even other higher level cognitive responses. Example of multiple choice item. What kind of animal is chameleon? You have been given option. That means you have multiple choice. Mammal, reptile, bird, insect. The student is asked to choose the correct answer, which is only one from the option. And this is just an example of a multiple choice item. And it is said to be selected responses. Then we have another one, example of true or false item. Is the following statement true or false? This is the statement: a chameleon is a type of lizard. If the student is telling you that it is true or false, that's a true or false item. Then another example is filling the gap or filling the space. The chameleon is a distinctive and well-known species of dash. It's another example of the responses that we have. Then we have example of matching item. Match each assessment in column A to its response to its purposes in column B. You have been given column A and column B: summative, interim, diagnostic, and formative. You are supposed to match which one that corresponds to each of the ones in column B. Example of essay type questions. This is the performance responses. In this case, the student will be asked to describe or to explain in his own way, so that but must be correct. But in this case, you know that the student is going to give his own opinion, and in the way he has no choice given to him. Describe at least 3 distinguishing features of chameleon. Use complete sentences. This is an example of essay type questions. All these responses type of assessment will be more explained to you in other units that we are going to come across. So you have activity 2, which says you compare and contrast the 3 types of assessment items we discussed in this lesson according to how students demonstrate learning. When you finish with this one, you can send it to your facilitator's email. Another point we are going to make here and discuss is evaluation. What is evaluation? Evaluation is what final judgment is made from considering the result of assessment or measurement. When you consider the result of your assessment or the measurement you have made, that is, you are going to make judgment either that the student has passed or failed. That's judgment. You know, the other ones are numerical, where you can give measurement, you give scores. Assessment, you gather the data. Then evaluation, now you now make final judgment. If somebody gets 79 or 80%, You say he has A. Somebody with a 32, we have F. It means you are making judgment of that particular assessment, and that is what we call evaluation. It is a systematic process of determining the extent to which educational objectives are achieved. From there, you will know whether the student is doing well or not. The evaluation commitments, educational commitments. We have so many things in educational settings that is supposed to be considered. In the school system, you have what we call curriculum. When curricula are designed, buildings are constructed, utilities and services are provided, teachers are recruited, inspectors are employed. In this type of organization, you discover that you will need to have the purposes for evaluation. Because of why do we need to evaluate? See so many commitments that we have in the educational system. You recruit teachers, you recruit inspectors, you buy equipment, you build, you construct buildings, and so many things. You have curriculum that is designed. All these things have to be evaluated. That's the purposes of evaluation, to see if the curriculum design is achieved its objective, or if to assess teachers' methods of teaching, to assess teachers' competencies, to enable students to know their performances. That is a way of feedback, and to inform parents of the progress of their children, and to supply information to employers and general public. And it can also be used for promotion and placement. Now you have activity 3. This is just to encourage you to know what you have learned. If there's any part of this video that you are not clear with to answer the activity, you can go back. You can go back and view the video so that you understand and be able to answer the questions that are given to you. Assessment, measurement, and evaluation are an integral part of integrated science. There's no way you can teach integrated science without assessing the student, or you measure their performances and evaluate finally. We teach what we teach to our children. Services are provided to set out objectives. It is therefore important to monitor the activities going on in the school to achieve objectives through measurement, assessment, and evaluation. Then you have the final assignment for this course. Explain the concept of evaluation and its purposes in educational enterprise. We have come to the end of today's lesson. Until next time, when I will bring to you another interesting lesson, I'm your facilitator, Dr. Omorile Atafolabi, saying goodbye.